Hello, my name is Tyler. Today I will be talking about why college athletes should be paid. Um, the number one reason, in my opinion, is that most of these kids are on scholarship, but some are even on walk-on, and they play these sports as their jobs in college, and they don't really have time to actually go and get a job. Harrit in 2014 talks about this in his article, Why College Athletes Should Be Paid. He says that most of these kids, about 90% of them are on scholarships, but the other 10% are just walk-ons that are doing this as their job and not getting anything, and they're still having to pay for their college. While they go to practice every day after school for 3-4 hours when they can't even go and get a job to get money afterwards. The second reason would be most athletes either get injured or leave early to go to professional level, so they don't even finish college. So the scholarship doesn't really mean anything to them. The number one option I have is Jason White. He was a Heisman winner at OU, and one of the best OU quarterbacks ever at OU. He won the Heisman one year, finished second the second year, but he had 3 knee injuries in college, which made him never be able to actually go to the NFL. Second option I have is Jaylon Smith. He was a projected top 5 pick in the NFL draft, but in his last game in college football, he tore his ACL, which made him fall all the way to the second round in the draft, which lost him about $17 million. And Mandel talks about this in 2016 in his article, just a reminder that Jaylon Smith missed $17 million by playing in a game that didn't even matter. Going back on Jason White, Trammell had an article in 2014 that details his whole career at OU and all his knee injuries and what he went through. The third option I have is Darius Bazley. He was the number 5 high school recruit in 2017 and committed to Syracuse. But halfway through his last high school year, he decided to decommit and just automatically join the NBA Development League, which is like their minor league where they kind of put their rookies at to try to get ready. He only made $26,000 a year, but he thought this was better for him because he wasn't going to college and not getting paid at all. It ended up not working out because he wasn't actually able to make the team, so he just prepared for the draft, and he's actually going to probably be selected in this year's draft. Another option is Ben Simmons. He was the number 1 pick 2 years ago, and he actually was suspended from the NCAA because he wasn't showing up to his classes because he didn't think that they meant anything to him because he was just there to play basketball. He was suspended, did not get to play any of his college basketball because he wasn't showing up at his classes at all, but was still the number 1 pick next year in the draft, which shows that the draft doesn't really matter to college athletes unless you get injured. But we've seen with other people like Nerlens Noel, who was supposed to be the number 1 pick, tear his ACL in the last game of his college career. He only fell to 6th in the NBA draft. While people like Kyrie Irving, who also tore his ACL, still went number 1. It really depends on how good your skill level is. Even Joel Embiid, who broke his foot in college, still went number 3 and is now a superstar in the NBA, along with Ben Simmons. The number 4 option that I have would be that the NCAA had to completely ban their video games over the franchises because it actually hurt the college athletes because they weren't getting paid in it. Ed O'Brien actually has a huge civil case against the NCAA because he was actually featured in the game with his name and he was not paid for it at all. This was completely wrong by the NCAA because they are supposed to randomly generate the players' names because they are not getting paid at all for this. The only person that actually gets paid is the guy on the cover, but he only gets like $1,000 to actually do it. But the NCAA basketball game was banned in 2010, as we saw with Blake Griffin on the cover. They continued the NCAA football for 4 more years, where they ended up having 4 players, all from Northwestern, in the game. And EA completely shut it down after that because the civil cases were going too big. In their opinion, EA said they will never create another game. And Rovell even talks about this on his article from 2018 on ESPN, why EA will never make a college football or basketball game again, mentioning how much money they lost, even though it was their best-selling game out of the sports franchises. And even players nowadays said they just want the games to come back because this is what they played growing up, and they always wanted to be in the game even though their name wasn't. As a review, Most of these kids are on scholarship, about 90% of them, but some even walk on and just play as their job instead of going and actually getting a real job. Some of these athletes leave early, like I mentioned in Darius Baisley and Jason White, who wasn't even able to make professional league because of injuries, and Kyrie Irving and Joel Embiid also left after their freshman year of college just to go play professional basketball. And we also talked about the video games and how they will be hurt by the fans because we are not allowed to play them anymore, nor are the players featured in the games just because they made some mistakes of actually putting the players in. These would be the reasons why, in my opinion, college athletes should be paid.